Well, good afternoon, sixth period economics. It is Thursday, November 16th, and today we are going to wrap up your topic 5 so that tomorrow you can have time for your Market Watch paper on Friday. So if you've not already, go to your Canvas and open up your PowerPoint, and you will find chapter 5.6. Analyze how supply and demand in labor market affects wages. You're going to see a list of jobs there. So if you go ahead, and if you've not already done this, go ahead and press the pause button, find that, and then come back to me. So now that you've found that, you see a list of jobs there, and what I'd like you to do, either your substitute or somebody in the class to facilitate this, you'll see the first job there is a groundskeeper. Start at $10,000, work your way up every $10,000, until at least a half of the class believes that's a fair wage. So $10,000 for groundskeeper, $20,000 for groundskeeper or landscaper, $30,000. As soon as you get to a $10,000 number, that half the class is now raising their hand for that job to receive that wage. That's the wage that you believe is a fair wage for that job. So go through the list, do that for each job. You might even write it down on the dry erase board what each job would receive, and then have a quick conversation about why it is that you concluded with the dollar numbers you did for each job. Why do you believe that each job receives that? Okay, so we are now to the next slide, analyzing how supply and demand in the market affects wages, and you see their equilibrium wage. If you remember when we talked about price and quantity, supply, demand, there was an equilibrium to pricing. There's also an equilibrium to wages, and that's all driven by unemployment and business income and loss. And you can see there a graph that talks about job growth up till 2012. But the equilibrium wage is going to be a definition that's probably going to be on your test. It says it's a wage rate or price of labor or services that is set when the supply of workers meets the demand for workers in the labor market. It's all controlled by unskilled labor, semi-skilled labor, skilled labor, and professional labor. So every job that you have now or are going to have is all driven by the number of workers that there are and the amount of money that those employers make. If an employer cannot find employees, the employer has to decide what they're going to do to resolve that. Are they going to increase prices so that they can increase wages and get more employees? It's all driven in a market where the employers and the owners of these businesses have to figure out how to get you to work for them. And so that whole process is how equilibrium wage is determined. So you see on the next slide some things for you to consider for your future. There are at least 3 paths that you can take when it comes to your own personal labor plan. The first is go to college. Now, I would strongly recommend that if you do that, that you study hard now, begin preparing for retaking the SAT or ACT if your scores are not high. You really want to do everything in your power to get as many scholarships and grants as possible. You do not want to leave college burdened by college debt. You do not want to do that. Trust me. My kids have experienced it. My wife and I experienced it. It is brutal. The college we went to is now charging over $50,000 a year. A 4-year degree at the school my wife and I went to costs more than our home. It's absolutely ridiculous. You do not want to graduate with debt. So ultimately, if you want a career that requires a college degree, then go to college. But if you don't know if the career that you want is going to be driven by college, then get a license. Many of you know Brian Blue. He has his real estate license. He is working hard to be an independent financial person. And we've got lots of folks that graduated last year that are working on their plumbing license, electrical license. They're working for different companies in the community that deal with construction, all that different type of stuff. And they're doing pretty well for themselves. They're going through the initial processes of apprenticeship and are working toward becoming highly successful individuals. So I would encourage you to consider that. If you do not know if the career that you're looking for requires a college degree, please don't go to college just because. Take a gap year, figure out what you want to do with your life, try to get another job other than, Winn-Dixie, that kind of thing, and develop your skills. The last possibility is to join the military. And listen, you can do extremely well for yourself by joining the military. You can do extremely well. I know officers that are making six figures plus housing and retirement. And if you're in for 20 years, you're going to get the majority of your pay back to you, even if you're not working in the military anymore. Can you imagine if you make $100,000 a year in the military and then you retire and you're making $80,000 a year and you're not in the military anymore? That is really a good deal. So do not dismiss the military. The military is going to teach you so much about life, and you will probably get into a field that can give you skills coming out of the military. Lastly, in Florida, we have preferential hiring for veterans. So even if you don't make the military a permanent career, you get preferential hiring when you come out of the military. When I was hired here, I had to sign something on an application that said that I understood that if a veteran was applying for the job that I was applying for, that the veteran, by Florida law, was going to receive preferential treatment. So listen, you can position yourself by joining the military and setting the stage for your life. Now, this time, I'm going to have you watch two videos. The sum of these two videos is about 10 minutes. The first is titled Apple's Chinese Factories Exclusive. It's found on ABC News, so you're going to need to search YouTube for that. The second is how the Tesla Model S is made, and it's on the Wired YouTube channel. So if you can hopefully already have those available to you, but Apple Chinese factories, they're both about 10 years old, so they are dated. But I want you to see how Apple was approaching manufacturing their cell phones in China versus how Tesla did what they do. And then have a conversation, not too long of one, because we have some other things to do today. But I would encourage you to have a conversation about how those two videos are radically different. All right, we are moving on to Chapter 5.7 and explaining why American workers have formed labor unions. And we begin with the question, what type of working conditions would make you want to quit a job or start a labor union to change the working conditions? What would happen at Winn-Dixie? What would happen at an electrical company, an HVAC company, wherever it is that you hope to work? What working conditions would cause you to say, I can't work here anymore, and I need to create a labor union in order to change the working conditions? Talk about that and come back to me. Okay, last slide for the day. There are several words on this page that you are going to need to know for your test. First, you need to know that labor unions are organizations of workers that try to improve working conditions, wages, and benefits for its members. You also need to know that featherbedding is negotiating labor contracts that keep unnecessary workers on the company payroll. Featherbedding has nothing to do with your mattress or your pillow. It has everything to do with a labor union recognizing that the company does not need as many workers as it has, but the negotiating process says we're going to go on strike if you don't keep them and pay them anyway. That's featherbedding, okay? A strike will often be something that a company threatens or a labor union threatens in order to stop work and force a business owner to meet the demands of the employees. A right-to-work law is a measure that bans mandatory union membership, and Florida is a right-to-work state. What that means is that you are not required by law to join a union. In some states, you are required by law to join a teachers union. In Florida, teachers are not required to join teachers unions. I'm often asked by students if I'm a part of the teachers union, and I never answer that question. So if I was there, you probably would ask, and I wouldn't answer it. So it's probably just as well that I'm not there. Lastly, collective bargaining is what happens between a union and a company to negotiate a new labor contract. If you have time, you see on your last slide the labor movement and one about strikes. If you have time to watch either of those, that would probably be pretty cool. But again, tomorrow you're going to be working on your Market Watch paper. Remember the parameters and the penalties for how it is that you will lose points on that significant assignment. Make sure you document your sources. Make sure it's original work to you. If you find a quote somewhere, please make sure you attribute that and that quote to wherever it is that you found it. Just copy and paste the website link in parentheses and you'll be okay. So, hey, hope you're having a great day. I hope life is well. We miss you. Thanks for being patient with me as I go up north to do my niece's wedding. You won't have a video tomorrow. You're going to be working on that Market Watch paper. So let me tell you now, you matter. And I hope you have a great weekend. I hope you're safe, make great decisions. And my wife and I look so forward to seeing you again on Monday. Have a great weekend, folks.